You are now entering That One Studio for the What Are You Made Of show with your host, Mike C-Roc, and his guest, who will be sharing what they're made of. The journey to success has been invisible until now. Sit back, relax, get your notepad ready, and enjoy the show.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Well, we have a big audience here today. Wow. Welcome back to the What Are You Made Of show here in That One Studio. It's your boy C-Roc. Another great guest for you today. This is a fella that I met and through some of my connections, and we hit it off. He's a good dude doing great things, and I had to bring him on here to share him with you all. And, you know, I want to help elevate his brand and his mission. We do that through the show, but also he's helping us because he's going to provide some insight into what made him who he is. You know, and our guy Matt's in the building, Matthew Linklater. You know, Matt, what he does is provides family office services for high income and high net worth family businesses. He specializes in helping business owners with real-time accounting, tax advice, cash flow planning, and estate planning. Matt, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate you, brother.
Hey, man, it's good to see you. How things going, man? Anything new happening, new and exciting since the last time we talked?
Always, man. Always hustling. My kids are 9 and 7, so got wrestling, got soccer, buying a couple businesses. So there's always things moving and shaking, especially when you got young kids and you're pushing in business, right? Yeah,
I love it, man. I know those days. My son's 17 now, playing football and senior season. It's going by just so fast, and just take every moment in, man, because they grow up quick. And I know I've heard that a lot of times, but, you know, until I saw my son's senior picture and then his graduation picture from kindergarten side by side, which my wife posted the other day, man, I got all teared up. It didn't really hit me until then, you know? So just take it all in, brother.
Yeah, it's different, man. I see him. See you posting online, him playing some football. How are they doing, man? They got a winning season going? How's it going?
Yeah, they're different, man. This team's different. There's something special about them. You know, like, I saw this when I was watching. We'll get back to the show the way it's supposed to be, guys, in a second.
Oh, my bad, man.
No. This is me too. No. I'll take full responsibility for this. But you know, I'm an Eagles fan, and when the Eagles won the Super Bowl that year, there was something special about that team. You could just tell. And so this team has that, and I really fully feel that they're going to win the state championship this year. Like there's not a lot of competition compared to what they do and the work that they put in and the coaching staff that they have. So yeah, it's good stuff, and I'm glad you're following the journey because I'm going to keep putting some new posts up every week. So, but Matt, listen, we start the show the same way every time, and that's with the question that's written on the wall behind me, and you might have to turn your head like this, but it's, what are you made of?
You know, I knew you were going to ask that question, right? You ask everybody that question, is just kind of thinking about it, and you know, really what it boils down to be for me and my family is, you know, you don't necessarily always get your goals and your dreams, and you get them, but sometimes, you know, you're reaching here and you come over here and it's bigger and better, right? But the one thing I know that you get every day is the standards that you live by, right? Your health is by, do you work out, do you eat? Your standards for your kids are, you know, are they showing up every day being their best? And so leaders lead by example. And so really what drives me every day is just, you know, in the office, people are going to gravitate towards, you know, a leader that leads by example. If you don't lead by example, then they resent you, right? If people don't do what you say, they do what you do. And so I just always think about, you know, especially with my boys in business, is how do I lead by example and how do I set that standard? And so that's kind of what drives me every day. And plus, life is pretty painful when you don't live a high standard. If you've been in business for a long time, I always say if you don't discipline yourself, life's going to discipline you, you know? So that's kind of one thing I think about. And then the other big thing that kind of, what are we made of every day is inspiration. And I'm not talking about the Oprah Winfrey type follow your inspiration, but be inspired every day, right? Be inspired to go to work every day. Be inspired to go to school every day. Be inspired to get up, go to the gym. Be inspired to be better every day. Because, you know, and I see this more so with my kids and people at work, is you just don't always get the outcome. You don't always get your result, but what you can be is if you're inspired in those actions every day, you're going to have better results. You're going to have better outcomes. And so I try not to focus on the outcome as much, partly too because we're such high performers in my house. My wife and I is kind of pushing like some OCD tendencies and ADD type tendencies because we're always going, we're always here, we're always there. And so really just try to focus on being inspired every day and doing your best and setting a high standard for yourself, for your actions. So that's kind of what I think, when you ask me what am I made of, I think that's kind of what I drive to every day for myself and my businesses.
Right on, right on. Hey, do you talk to yourself when you're by yourself at all?
Do I talk to myself when I'm by myself?
Yeah. I'm just curious, like, because I do. I talk to myself. So I
All
didn't know
the
if you
time.
talk to yourself. Yeah.
All the time, man. Come on. When
Yeah.
you get, I get up at 4 a.m. and it ain't easy. There's a lot of talking to myself at that time, negatively and positively.
Now, why do you get up at 4? What's the deal with that?
My kids, right? So when I'm working and my wife's working, and what was happening is I wasn't able to get to the gym. I wasn't spending time for myself. I stopped reading a little bit. I stopped getting to the gym consistently. It was really when my kids were babies. And so I just realized if I get up at 4 or 5 a.m., it's my time. And and don't get me wrong, I go to bed at 9:30, so I'm not like, oh, get up early and don't get sleep, man. I get my 7-8 hours. I ain't gonna lie to you on that.
Yeah.
But it's really just to get my me time, get to the gym. There's nothing's gonna get in my way. Nothing's gonna derail me, except for the alarm clock, right? Because it ain't always easy when 4:30, 4 a.m. hits. So.
Well, I asked you that question because, sometimes I wake up at that time. I don't, try to. But what I've done is, and I want to challenge you on this to see if, because you didn't sound like you like waking up at 4. Like, it's not like you mentioned alarm clock, one. And I just like, I'm kind of like a guy that likes to throw challenges out there.
Yeah.
So I figured out a way not to have to use an alarm clock.
Yeah.
And I figured out a way to get everything done that I need to get done and still take care of myself and have my me time, but still wake up like on my own without alarm clock at the time I feel like waking up. And, I just want to throw this out there. Like, I really think that there's a way to live life without having to worry about an alarm clock, and I think so many people are stuck in these things where they set a time and they make a decision and it's like, that's the way it's going to be. And then they don't think about the opportunity of the spiritual beings that we actually are, that we can do whatever the hell we want to when we decide to.
Yeah.
So I didn't know if you did that because you had to or because, I was just curious. So, and talking to yourself, I talk to myself because I want somebody around me like me all the time. And I think that's the way you are too.
Well, you definitely get your referential index, right? So you're definitely,
Yeah.
It's not, it's not just the 5 people you're around that you're the average of. It's really who's your reference index, right?
Mm-hmm.
But to your point, they say, I naturally, like you, get up about 4:30, right? I kind of naturally am awake, right?
Yeah.
They say spiritually, you're closest to God at 4 a.m. just because you said the spiritual beings that we are, right?
Yeah.
They actually say, so not to bring spiritual into it and ethereal stuff, but they say naturally we will wake up at 4 because that's when we're closest to God. I don't know how true that is, but I've heard many spiritual teachers say that.
Yeah, and the thing that gets me with that is like, well, it depends on what time zone you're in. Which 4 o'clock are we talking about here? Are we talking about like the homeland 4 o'clock? Are we talking about where I am now? Like, anyway, that's beyond the point. But I always interested in, because like there's other things that are said out there like, don't quit. Well, quitting's not a bad thing. It's what you quit or don't quit is the good or bad thing. It's not quitting.
Right.
I like to challenge all these things that people say out these talking heads and gurus, and people can challenge me too. I don't give a shit, but. I just don't like the thing that everybody goes by just because somebody says it. Anyway, so
I agree with that. What's funny is that all these guys. I get up at 4. I get up at 3:30. I get up at 2, and it's just like you go on Instagram and hear all this crap. Really, it's about what works for you. And for me, you get the most in a day. I feel I'm more productive at 4 a.m. than I am at 10 p.m. So why not get up here and go to bed a little bit earlier while you're watching TV and messing around?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. For me, 4 a.m. Like I'll get up at 4 a.m. But like I don't even know where the hell I am. So it takes me a little while to get like going, mentally. So I feel you though. So what's your story, man? Like where did you come from? Where did Matt start in life? And take us through the journey of how you got to where you are today.
I think when you look at it, is all our patterns, right? We're the result of who we were before we were 7, right? So when you look at it, we're in a hypnagogic trance before we're 7 years old. Not to get all ethereal again on you, but we're just a blank slate. Our family's downloading on us, right? And my dad was an ex-Vietnam guy. I think that there's all these guys that are, the masculine thing is kind of overdone nowadays, But there's a difference of those dudes that were 75 plus, that were Vietnam guys coming back. It's just a different no nonsense than even all these masculine guys out there that, that are preaching the stuff. But, I had a well-meaning dad, and I had 3 older brothers. So really, it just never was good enough, and they're always pushing on you. We played baseball, we played basketball, we played football. I wrestled in high school, played football in college with one of my brothers. But it was just never good enough. So they're always pushing you to be better, be faster, be stronger, be tougher. And so I think that's really what kind of, when I think about makes me. My mom was a cashier at a grocery store. My dad did heating and cooling in a big building. He was a blue-collar guy. And so I think that's that blue-collar work ethic. And I laugh now when even, my wife is like, oh, just take this off, or you can take an hour here, or, oh, don't be mad at them, they took an hour off. I'm like, do you think my dad ever took a freaking day off or an hour off, man? Like, what like, we're soft, And so I think just that mentality of growing up that way. And then my parents got divorced, and that's never easy. Saw my dad do some sacrifices to get himself back on his feet, which is pretty powerful. He lived in a basement apartment in South Chicago Heights in Illinois, and it wasn't a nice neighborhood, right? But he did that to get himself back on his feet. So when you see those types of things, and you have a good support system, and some of it, people being hard on you kind of can mess you up a little bit, right? Because you're hard on yourself, you're in your own head. And to your point earlier, do you talk to yourself? You definitely talk to myself, but also you kind of got to get to that blank slate of just kind of being able to do it and go and not worry about anything. And so I think a lot of that kind of really pushed me and made me and created that drive inside of me.
Yeah, and when you talk about day off kind of thing, I'm the same way, man. And I'm hard on my son. I don't know if I was too hard on him or not. I don't know. I just know that when he goes out in the public, people say great things about him. And so, you got to pressure coal to make diamonds, I always say. And I was hard on him. And my wife and I would have discussions sometimes like, am I being too hard on him? And are you being too easy on him? And all that other stuff. But that day off thing occasionally here or there, just having a day, yeah, I agree that it's like you're soft. But what if it makes you more productive and powerful when you do work, and you accomplish more when you do? That's the thing I always think about. So I'm contemplating these things because I'm not the type of dude that goes on vacation and can just chill and lay by the pool. Like I can't do it. You know what I mean? I got to be like, all right, man, I'm in Mexico right now. I got a drink in my hand. Who can I meet and start doing some business with?
Right, exactly.
My wife's like, what are you doing? Do you do that too when you go on vacation? Like, can you sit still and chill?
100%. I feel better on vacation if I can get up and I get my workout in, maybe have a couple quick Zoom calls, and then I feel at least productive that I earned the day, And again, I'm not trying to say not to take days off. I'm saying, my dad's mentality was never take a day off that you're not getting paid for, right? And, as an entrepreneur, as a salesperson, you're getting paid if you're selling, right? It doesn't matter if you're at work or not work. So there's a little bit different nuance there. Exactly like you're saying, I'm always working, always selling, but I enjoy that. And I enjoy, we live down here in Tampa. I just moved here a couple years ago, going to the beach. And then like you usually make a few conversations, you get a couple leads, and you feel good about it. So you're productive. But I'm not saying not to take days off, but 100%. I feel like I got to earn my day off. I feel better, if I have a few beers in Mexico or a few drinks. I feel better if I get an hour workout in the morning that I earn those drinks. Just that mentality is it's not really days off. It's just having that mentality, right, of earning it.
100%. Are you the kind of guy that would be talking to everybody? Like my wife's like, talk to everybody. Like I'll be sitting there when we're by the pool, and I'll be like, hey man, what do you do? Because most people they're so introverted, they stick together with the people that they came with. And I like to bring people out, like bring them out of their shell. And once you do, it's like it's a good time. You make friends.
Oh yeah, all the time. A lot of times going to dinner with different families on vacation. And, their kid, and it's also good because then my kids are a little older, but when they were a little younger, you get other kids, you don't have to watch them as much. Now I'm playing with other kids. I'm not entertaining them. I'm talking to some other adults, having fun. Like you said, just sharing stories and learning about them. So yeah, 100%. I'm always chatting with everybody I can.
Yeah, and, I love it, man.
If I put a smile on somebody's face, it makes me smile. So sometimes it's just that too, right? Just telling that corny joke, that dad joke, or sparking a conversation with somebody,
Yeah, the 100%, man. So as you got into that situation, sitting there watching your father go through, coming from Vietnam, getting back on his feet, do you go through things now throughout your day, in the morning, at night, or whatever, where you're like stressing about work, stressing about mergers and acquisitions that you're doing, and scaling your business, and you're like, damn, I never thought my dad would be, the things that went through his mind as a father. You know what I mean? And you start to come to a realization that, well, maybe that's why he acted or said those things, or, do you ever think about that?
Yeah, 100%. My dad, was always kind of proud of me, right? Just because, you break that mold a little bit of the family or him, his earnings and the risk you take. And so he just always said, hey, I was afraid, I was afraid to take some of those risks that you take or took. And so, that always sticks with me, right? It's just, hey, I owe it to them, my mom and my dad, who have done this before us, right? They've taken the risk, they put in the effort. Man, my dad used to, because I do it now with my son, especially recently, is, he used to work, call it 6 to 2, whatever it was, the blue collar way. But then he'd rush home and coach Little League. And my dad was probably like one of the winningest Little League coaches. And he wouldn't be accepted in today's time, But just always yelling, not always yelling to the positive, but yelling to negative reinforcement wasn't a bad thing out of my dad's mouth. That was the way it was. So yeah, I think about that every day. It's just what he would say to me, that hustle, what he did, what he didn't do. And my dad was a big dude. He was like 6'2", he was like 350 pounds. He was just like a no nonsense guy when we were growing up. I got my mom's height and weight, but. So yeah, you think about that every time. Like, what would he do? What would those guys do then? What was his mentality? And think about getting drafted into war and fighting on a war you really don't know much about. You're fighting for a country you love, and so it fuels you, because every day you're saying like, hey man, if they could do it, if my ancestors could do this, I owe it to them. I owe it to my mom to push every day. Because she sacrificed a lot for me.
100%, man. And what about sports? Did you play sports and take it very far?
Yeah. Played. Why my dad got a 5'8" white guy to play basketball? I don't know. Me and all my brothers about my height. But we played hoops up until about 8th grade. But then we played football and baseball. And then I wrestled my junior and senior at high school. And because I only wrestled for 2 years, I was decent, but I wasn't great. Right? I did a lot of dumb things. But that mentality and that's one thing I wish I would have stuck with, right? Because it's you, yourself, you're out there. It's, you win, lose, it's on you. It's not like a team and you're like, oh, well, that guy sucked today or that ref sucked today. It's really on you. And so I went into college. I played Division III football for 2 years with my brother. I was a corner, played all the special teams. I was a kamikaze guy, like the force guy on the kickoff team, the force guy on the punt team, stuff like that. And so that too kind of leads you to who you are today, right? Because if you want to compete at a high level, you're pushing every day in the weight room. You're showing up every day, And so that's led me to put my kids into martial arts. So both my kids been doing martial arts since they were about 3-4 years old. The one was 2.5 doing taekwondo. Now he does jiu-jitsu and he's wrestling. He wants to wrestle in his first tournament, but he's not quite 7. And you're in the hypnagogic trance. So I don't know if I'm going to put him out there because he got his feelings hurt on Saturday a little bit at wrestling. And he went back, though, on Sunday. So he rose to the occasion.
Yeah, I love it, man. My son was wrestling at 8, I think. He played golf and wrestled when he was younger and a little soccer. Yeah. And then he didn't play football until he got to high school. So, but he's a big boy now, 6 foot, 240. So I played Division III too. I don't know if we talked about this or not. What school did you go to?
I'm from Chicago, so I went to a small school north of Chicago called Lake Forest College.
Okay. I went to Salisbury University, but now it was Salisbury State in Maryland. Now it's Salisbury University. Played outside linebacker. So I'm 5'7", Matt. I don't know if you knew that.
Oh, nice. There you go, man.
But I'm jacked though. I'm built like a freaking fire hydrant. But I played football at 185, 190, somewhere in that range, weight-wise. Yeah. So
that's a good size, though. D3, 190 linebacker. That's a decent size,
Yeah, if I was faster.
Hey, man, well, that's why we go D3, because you're slow,
Yeah, exactly. So, my son's now going to, trying to think about schools. I took him down to SEC school, Ole Miss, a couple weeks ago, and those guys are huge. And, he doesn't have a chance of playing at that level. But, it was cool for him to see the size compared to what he's doing now and the speed and all that. So Matt, how did you get into working with high net worth individuals and working with accounting and all that jazz? What do you like? Where did you get? How did you get that into that?
Yeah. So I came out of college, man. I worked for a small company called Oldie Discount. I went to Allstate, Ameriprise, this company called AXA, all big insurance companies. And really what you do, a lot of really insurance, like you and I, or I shouldn't say you and I, but like the average person on the street doesn't like insurance, doesn't want to buy insurance. But really what insurance is, it leads to advanced estate planning. You're doing big deals for people to help offset their estate taxes. And really plan for the business and key man insurance and stuff like that. But that really led to is really just understanding, the needs of small business owner and mid-sized business. And so what that morphed into is I found that most mid-sized businesses, call them making $1 million to $50 million on top line revenue, When you look at those businesses, they're really underserved. You have a stockbroker that wants to put their money in the stock market and charge them 1%. I always say, why would you put your money in the stock market when you have a business? People go and invest in real estate. Now for the tax deduction, I get it. But when you have a business, you should just be, let's double down on your business per se. Now I'm not against real estate. I'm just saying, why invest outside of your business so much? And so it's kind of think about that. But one is most stockbrokers charge you 1% for your money in the stock market. Most lawyers are setting up your LLC, your S Corp, whatever you want to be, a C Corp. Maybe they even do your trust and you never talk to them again. Most people who have a trust don't ever implement it and put it into place, right? So then when you look at, finances, most people don't even know how to get financing. I helped a lady get a loan from a bank in Chicago, and I pit 3 banks against each other. One was giving her just a line of credit, and I got the other one to amortize it over 7 years. And the one who did it over 7 years, he thought the other guy had a better deal than us. And she walked out. She's like, I didn't even know you could do that. I'm like, yeah, So what I'm saying is, it just kind of morphed into that these small and mid-sized businesses just don't have kind of a quarterback for all their deals and all their financing. When you look at a CPA, they're a historian, right? They just take your numbers off your P&L from last year and they plug it in, and you say, shit, why am I paying so much in taxes? And they say, well, I don't know, it's what you made. So there's no planning involved in there. And so what I just found is just helping out people and kind of acting as that, we call it a family office. Family office is usually reserved for people who make, worth 30 million or more managing their own money. So I kind of call it a virtual family office in the triangle of wealth. How do you have an advisor, a tax attorney, and CPA all kind of working for your benefit, just to comb through all your deals, make sure you're doing the best deal. Like I have a strategy with SBA financing. Most people think you got to put 10% down with SBA, and I have a strategy where you can put 5% down if you structure the deal right. And so it's just different things like that people just don't know.
So first of all, I got a couple things for you. Number one, I've always invested in my businesses, and then I watch sometimes, and I'm watching people invest in all these different things, and I'm like, am I missing something here? Because I can't wrap my head around it, but I see them doing it, and I'm like, to me, it makes sense to bet on myself. And when I invest in my business, I can scale my business. It's like unlimited scalability if I focus on that. I can't control when I invest in the stock market. I'm hoping that somebody does something. And the other thing, real estate, when you invest in real estate, that's a business. It's just another business, right? So to me, I invest in my business, and everything I invest in my business is tax deductible, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that one. And then the other thing is, I have a question for you on SBA. So we have a property we're looking at. It's a resort property in Oxford, Mississippi. Okay. And we'll do this for everybody so that everybody can hear, because they might spur up some things. And it's a resort wedding kind of event facility, comes with a real estate. We're buying a business and real estate, and we're raising capital for it. But then I started thinking about, well, I could do an SBA loan for it. And instead of the down payment, because I'm advising on this acquisition, instead of a down payment, I've been in the mortgage business 17 years. We used to do what's called gift of equity when it was a non-arm's length transaction. In other words, family selling to family. And we used to do gift of equity, and that gift of equity could be the down payment in the residential financing. Does that work in commercial financing where you can do gift of equity for the down payment part, 5-10% down? Is that something you run across?
It should be, it should be can work in SBA financing. Anybody could invest into the deal, right?
Right.
And then typically if they have more, and you give them some shares, or you can give them some equity, or if you don't want to give them equity, then you can kind of structure it maybe as another outside loan. but then it would go on your debt schedule. The other thing is on that is, so for instance, sometimes, when people want to give me money, let's give them a little percent here or there, or I tell them, hey, just give a couple percent of the business. That way the money's traceable. But usually they just want to know where the money's coming from and what are the terms
But
on the money.
even if they're the seller of the business and real estate.
Oh, if they're the seller.
Yeah. So we got the seller, right? So what we used to do in real estate business in residential, the seller would be the parents, right?
Yeah, I see what you're
They're
saying.
selling to the family, the kids
Yeah.
and the son, the husband, daughter, whatever, wife. And instead of them having to have a down payment, the family would gift equity to them out of the proceeds of the sale for their down payment. It's
Yeah,
interesting way to think
yeah,
about
I
it.
would have to think about how on the SBA that would work, because SBA, they want the seller out of the deal typically. But on
Yeah.
a regular commercial loan, they don't really care if the seller's out of the deal, because you could borrow 50, you could, buy 30, 51, 70% of a business. Chances are, if it's commercial bank, they want you to have controlling stake, so they have first lien on the deal. But yeah, that shouldn't be a problem, having the seller put in that equity on that, I have to check with the banks.
Yeah, so that's something
But
that we're
yeah,
thinking
that
about.
shouldn't be a problem.
Getting creative with it. I'm a creative dude, you know what I mean? And then you got to work through their guidelines and all the requirements and all that other stuff. So no, I love that you do that, because I've been talking to some people, and now that we're having this conversation, I'll be talking to you more about this and seeing maybe we can do something. This is in Oxford. I'm going down to actually the LSU Ole Miss game this weekend, so it should be a good time. And
Nice.
going looking at the property and meeting with some investors and things. So yeah, man. So with now I understand that you're looking to scale and build this business out. I don't want to give any details away that you don't want to provide, but like, what is the plan now for the business? What are you working on right now, and what is your theory behind it? Why are you doing it?
Yeah. So my thing is go buy businesses. Easier to buy businesses than create clients, or buy clients and create clients, right? You're buying a de-risked asset, so you're buying something that's already been there. You're taking their headaches that they took to build it to where it is. And now they've already got it running fairly smoothly, right? So, they spent all that time, all that effort to get it to where it is. So you're buying a de-risked asset. When you go in there too, is most people you can just do some small tweaks, communicate a little better with clients, sell them bigger packages, sell them something else. And so you can kind of immediately start creating some growth and some revenue in there. The other thing is, think about this: if you buy a business that's a 30% free cash flow, and you're putting in say 5%, that's roughly, just off the top of my head, what's that, a 300% rate of return every year compounded? Every year you're in there. You got to run the thing. It's a little bit different than say real estate. But real estate, you're getting 7%, 10% cap rates. There's nothing wrong with them. I'm just giving you that as an example, right? As a metaphor. So you got a 7 or 10% cap rate on a piece of real estate. You got to put in what's LTV now, 20 or 30%. I've heard some people getting to 30%. So you got to put more money in. You're getting a 7% cap rate. It's a little bit passive. You can, I don't want to say you don't have to have a ton of skill to manage that per se. Opposed to a business.
Yeah.
And so, your rate of return's a little bit lower. Now, people have done great in real estate. I mean, just from rates coming down to 3%, some people had 64% rates of return in 1 year just because of interest rates. Look, I'm not saying that's not genius and that's not great. It's just that's not necessarily sustainable. That was just COVID and some a bull market in real estate. Where over here you have a bigger return on your money, and you gotta manage it. But then you keep stringing some of them together. You get some synergies. You cut some costs. You buy businesses that have, so strategies you could bring over to this business and vice versa. And so you start creating some synergies among the business. So cash on cash, your return's better. It's a little more complicated, don't get me wrong, so you got to manage it. But that's really wise, buying a de-risked asset, buying clients rather than creating clients, and just your return on your cash flow.
And are you finding that the operations staff stays?
The ones you want to, yeah. Most people
Yeah.
want a job. So if you come
Yeah.
in and you don't scare them, right? So
Right.
It's one thing is, I come in with all this hype and excitement every day. Is that I scare some accountants and CPAs. But by and large, people want to be inspired to go to work, and they want to stay. You want the owners out typically because you've seen businesses. Owners are usually the ones kind of bottlenecking the business. They they got it there. They're really smart people. They get it to $1 million, $2 million. You've read like the E-Myth. People get to $2 million and have a tough time breaking on or whatever. And usually it's just, the stranglehold they put on business. And most business owners, they do this. They say, hey, I'm going to move this over here today, and it's going to be good. And then they come in the next day, and they feel like they're moving the furniture and acting like it's going to do something great. When really you got to have, implement the strategies in marketing and sales and communication, and that's really what's going to drive the business. So yeah, you want the people who you want to stay, but you want the people that you want to leave.
And the other question I have, what are you seeing most of the time with these sellers? Like, why are they selling?
Well, it's never math, right? So if you're buying something at 4 or 5 time multiple, right? A 4 or 5 a multiple of EBITDA, it doesn't make sense because just use easy math. Let's say they have a $250,000 EBITDA and they sell it for a multiple of 4. It's $1 million. Why would they sell something for $1 million when they're making $250,000 a year, right? That doesn't make sense. So usually they want to move on. They're not healthy. They had a heart attack. They're going blind, or some age is catching up with them, and that's one of the big things. Or they want to move to another industry or do something different. They're tired of doing what they're doing. I can tell you a couple examples now. One guy's not healthy, so that's who wants to get out. Another lady is just aging herself out. Another guy wants to do something else, so we might partner on what he wants to do else, because I'll bring those services to that business, if that makes sense. So everybody's just a little bit different. One lady, she wants to spend more time with her kids.
Gotcha. And then the plan to build this asset for an exit?
Yeah, 100%, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, you build it up, and you just want to sell for a multiple, right? So if you're buying at 3 or 4 times on the low end, hopefully, once you get to a certain size, they sell for bigger multiples, typically 5, 6, 7, maybe 10 times. Like if you go public, it's usually 10 times EBITDA, right? 10 times earnings. You sell to a bigger player. I think multiples are going to be squeezed a little bit, right? There's higher cost of borrowing, so that's going to squeeze the multiple. And then, money's not as free in private equity as I think it has been, or it's probably going to continue not to be, as just people throwing around money. But there's obviously still a great opportunity to create, synergies among different offices, cut some costs, implement some new strategies, and just increase. If you can increase sales by about 20% and cut cost 10% ratio, it's like a 40% increase to the bottom line.
Yeah, that makes sense, man. And so what would you do? Final question here as we wind down here. By the way, Matt, thank you for joining me, man. It's been great, and I love the chat we've had. What would you do if you exited this business? Like, what would be next for you?
The next business?
Yeah, like what is it? Do you know yet?
No, I just keep going. Just the next business. I mean, a lot of times I like just working with people, So what's the next thing? My kids are 9 and 7, so you exit. Now they're teenagers. I always have that dream of doing it with them.
Yeah.
They're homeschooled, and the dream is for them. The reason they're homeschooled is because I don't know how you did in school. Like we did my report cards. They were in the garage. And the same shit they're yelling at my kids for. His handwriting sucks. He can't pay attention. He needs to work harder. Like really, like I need to work harder. They even called my young son. I'm just sorry to go off on a tangent. They said I think he might be lazy. Like if you know my young son, man, he goes to jiu-jitsu. If he's not at jiu-jitsu or something one night of the week, he's like, "Why am I sitting at home? What are we doing?"
Yeah.
And so, anyways,
no, they're just bored. They're not, like they should tell the teacher, like maybe you should take some responsibility to get these kids engaged. You ever think of that?
That's what I said. when I coach soccer, right? And sorry, we're off on a tangent. I'm sorry, brother. But like when I coach soccer, I'm like, hey, look at me. We kick the ball. Say we kick the ball with the inside of our foot. And I get them. Look, engage. And if you don't do that, these kids are in left field. So I said, they're not doing this shit at school. So he's not paying attention. So that grade there is a leadership problem. And these kids, I call them neurodivergent, right? I'm a master trainer of neuro-linguistic programming and stuff, and so I study a lot of this stuff. And so all these kids have ADD, ASD, you name it, OCD. And I say 90% of it is because, we have it, and there's reasons why we have it, but the reason that it's systemic is because we have shitty leaders. If these people would just learn how to be leaders, we don't need teachers. We don't need teachers taught at universities. We need teachers that are taught to be coaches and leaders and really engage with these kids, because I get it out of them, that's for sure.
Yep. I agree, man.
And
I'm
so,
100% with you, man. Yeah,
but to go back,
getting better.
Want to exit and then just go on to the next thing, and it's always a chase. I've been a real estate investor. I redid a bunch of houses on Western Michigan's campus, sold them, So just, always kind of, doing the next thing. But now I try to keep my focus really, really linear on one thing, and that is the businesses. And so,
Yeah.
we get a good exit, let's be on to the next big project and fun thing that keeps growing me as a person and inspiring me. Again, not in
Yeah.
the Oprah inspiration way, but just the inspiring of getting better and pursuing worthwhile goal and standard.
First of all, okay. So, by the way, how can people get engaged with you or get in touch with you? What's the best way first, Matt? Before I go to the next thing.
Yeah, I'd say the easiest way is just my email, matt@linkbizsolutions.com. So that's Link. My last name's Linklater, so Link biz boy indigo zebra solutions.com. Matt
right.
at linkbizsolutions.com. Yeah.
All right. Well, look, the other thing is, like, you have this thing. I don't know if you know this or not, but you have it where, you're doing the business, you're focusing on that, but there's something there. I noticed this, that you could be like out there speaking and being an influencer on this topic. And then just not only that, just leadership in general. That to me, I know we have families, I have kids. My wife says this all the time. Like, I got to share you with the world now because you've become this brand. But I feel when I wake up in the morning, Matt, and I want to encourage you to do this. Like, we have an obligation, if we have the ability, to impact millions of people, right? And so I always wake up and see that. And then when I see somebody that has it, like you do, like I do, like, dude, I just want to encourage you, man. Like, consider that as well.
Appreciate that.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks, man.
All right, brother. I appreciate you being on the show today. Thank you. Thank you all for watching or listening on your favorite podcast platform. It's your boy C-Roc here in that one studio on the What Are You Made Of show. Until next time, be unstoppable. C-Roc in the building. Trust is a must.